One of the most challenging race events in the world has got to be the Dakar Rally. Every year hundreds of people sign up for the biggest cross-country rally raid in the world. Now the Dakar takes place entirely within Saudi Arabia, but it's fair to say the best era of the Dakar was when the race was held in Africa, with the actual Dakar city as the end goal for numerous adventurers. The event was founded by Thierry Sabin in 1979, but he initially came up with the idea of the rally a few years earlier. Rally raids weren't anything new, and Thierry participated in a few himself. It was during the 1977 Abidjan-Nice rally that the idea of hosting a rally himself first came to mind. He found himself hopelessly lost somewhere in the Tenerife desert and fell in love with the landscape and the crazy adventure he stumbled into. This was worth sharing with people, and under the motto, "A challenge for those who go, a dream for those who stay behind," he created a route that started in the heart of Paris and ended in the coastal town of Dakar in Cape Verde, the most western point on the African continent. It didn't take long for like-minded people to join Thierry, and throughout the years the Dakar Rally cemented itself as the biggest and most prestigious rally raid of them all. The humble privateers and their garage-built cars, simply modified to cope with the terrain, were soon joined by full factory efforts and their high-tech racing machines. That isn't to say some privateers weren't capable of creating specialized vehicles of their own. On the contrary, if you wanted to see the most outrageous home-built off-roaders, the Dakar was the place to be. Competing in the Dakar Rally might be one of the most breathtaking experiences a racer could have, but it's also one of the most dangerous. The unforgiving terrain takes no prisoners, and if you find yourself lucky enough to come out of the crash unscathed, you still need to find a way to mend your vehicle and get it to the finish line, or risk spending the night in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, the so-called Dakar spirit means that pretty much every competitor quickly turns into a friend. It's here where the true Dakar experience is found. To push yourself and your vehicle to the ragged edge and beyond to get to that finish line no matter what. In the year 2000, seeing as the new millennium was about to begin, the organizers figured they'd change up the formula and flip the race on its head. Competitors would not finish at Dakar, but rather start from it and head northeast to Cairo, to the finish line located right beneath the Great Pyramids. A total of 401 competitors signed up, 135 cars, 200 motorcycles, 30 race trucks and 35 support trucks. As with any Dakar, there was a healthy amount of noteworthy vehicles and competitors, like the pair of endurance racing legends and Dakar regulars Henri Pescarolo and Jackie X, the latter of which had his daughter Vanina along for the ride as navigator. Current Dakar legend Stefan Peter Hansel was only competing for the second time behind the wheel of a car. After winning the event 5 times on a bike, he was up for a new challenge. Perhaps most eyes were aimed at Jean-Louis Schlesser in his iconic homemade buggy. It had beaten the Mitsubishi Armada in 1999, and he was keen on winning the event back-to-back. Mitsubishi was phasing out their program with eyes on developing an all-new prototype for the future, but that didn't mean the little Pajeros weren't gonna go out without a fight. In the bike category, it would be an all-out battle between KTM and BMW, while in the truck category it would be an eastern dispute between Kamaz and Tatra. And last but certainly not least, the numerous humble privateers in all categories who are the backbone of this rally. On the 6th of January they all set off on what would be a 3-week-long adventure, or at least that was the plan. The immense international attention of the Dakar Rally can sadly be exploited for the wrong reasons. Local uprisings and conflicts have proven to be difficult to navigate around, and in 2000 this turned impossible. At the end of the last stage of the first week, right after arriving in the city of Niamey in Niger, competitors were greeted with an ominous message from the organization. The rally had been halted. French and American intelligence agencies had warned of an imminent terrorist threat. It's not clear what group was planning an attack, but it was certain they chose the Dakar as their target in an attempt to create as much international attention as possible. With hundreds of people and their equipment now essentially trapped in the Niamey airport, the organization had one hell of a problem. They're stuck in the middle of Africa, and racing back to Dakar was a no-go. The stages take months of preparation and scouting, so creating an improvised route was impossible. Going ahead with the rally anyway and doing the 4 planned stages in Niger and its Tenerife desert would be too dangerous. Even with the local army's protection, it was a risk too big to take. Cancelling the rally would seem the easiest solution, but that would mean giving in to the external threat. Besides, Dakar competitors and its organization aren't known for just giving up that easily. The next day, shortly before midnight, race director of the Dakar, Hubert Auriol, revealed the game plan. The entire bivouac, all the people, all the equipment and all the cars would be airlifted over the country and into Libya where the rally would resume its predetermined route. It would be a monumental task, so what they needed was a monumental airplane to transport it all. An ordinary C-130 or Boeing 747 wouldn't cut it. What they needed had to be bigger, if not, the biggest of them all. So what they got was the Antonov AN-124, the second largest transport plane on the planet. Even better, they got 3 of them. Flying in straight from Kiev, Ukraine, the Antonovs would prove to be the much needed lifeline of the rally. Since the Antonovs had 2 15-man crews per plane, they could fly 24/7. They'd have to transport a total of 700 vehicles. The vast majority, of course, were the race cars, bikes and trucks, but also 8 ambulances, 6 catering trucks, 25 cars and 16 trucks of the organizers, and 8 helicopters. As all the room was needed in the Antonovs for the vehicles and equipment, all the people would have to board normal passenger planes to be flown to Libya. This obviously wouldn't happen all at once, so the people still in the bivouac had to wait their turn and prepare their cars for transport. Since they'd lose a whole week of running, they'd also have to adjust strategies. Once they'd arrive in Libya, there would be only 1 week left to make up for any gaps. There was plenty of time for more leisurely activities though, and the Niamey airport quickly featured improvised football fields and golf courses. Back at the Antonovs, unique challenges started to appear. Loading up containers with standardized sizes and weight limits in airplanes is relatively easy, but seeing as the Dakar Rally isn't a spec series, the crew had to carefully consider which cars could be transported together. If you put heavy 4x4s on one side and lightweight buggies on the other, the plane would be out of balance. This quickly turned into a very complicated game of Tetris. When the cars weren't getting loaded into the plane, they sat still on the tarmac. With no shade or spare enclosed hangars to be found, they did so in the open sun. One can imagine letting your car cook in the African sun for a couple of days isn't the best idea, so measures were taken to park the cars in such a way that all the electronics on board wouldn't start melting. It was an operation the entire motorsport world had never seen before, and it could have all fallen apart in an instant if the weather conditions suddenly changed or if one of the 3 Antonovs suffered from mechanical issues. Luckily for Auriol and his crew though, the planes were reliable and the weather didn't change. After 4 days and 3 nights of non-stop work, the airlift was done and a complete success. All the competitors were now ready for stage 7 of the event, which should have been stage 11. The rough transition in climate was a shock to most drivers and their vehicles. From slaloming through the trees in the savannas of Senegal to navigating giant dunes in the endless deserts of Libya and Egypt. In the end, 225 of the entered 401 vehicles made it to the finish line at the pyramids. Schlesser once again won the Dakar in his home-built buggy, proving that his win last year wasn't a lucky once-in-a-lifetime achievement. Peter Hansel managed to grab an impressive second-place finish in the unique Aixam Mega Desert. Not bad for a car brand used to making ice racing cars. In the bike category, BMW was victorious with a full podium lockout, and in the truck category, Kamaz took home the win. The Belgian duo of Rick de Pre and Geert de Volder also set an impressive achievement, as they were the first people in history crazy enough to race and complete the Dakar with a sidecar. The biggest off-road race in the world then was almost sabotaged by the worst kind of people. But luckily, the best kind of people prevented any drama. They improvised, and through cunning tactics and an impressive bit of planning and organization, the 2000 Dakar Rally ended up being one of the most memorable editions in the history of the race. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the next one.